Hello, and welcome back to Westeros. My name is Ebube, and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner. Today, we have a lot to discuss because we have a child to mourn. There's a lot going on in King's Landing, and there are two very, very bad people that we're hoping to catch, or at least the king is hoping to catch them. We're going to help, but I'm not going to do that alone because I have Afam here with me, and I think he has some thoughts on how this little boy left this world. Afam,
Oh,
take
first
it.
of all, we have a child to mourn. Okay, there is a child to be mourned. These are green plants behind
The child
you.
is not on our side. Look, I come before you today, dressed in black, in front of some green plants, but next to us, a little bit of red too. I think it's clear that I am for the realm, but I am Team Black. Okay,
All
I am
right,
Team Black because I am for the realm. Because Team Black is better for the realm, as far as I am willing to concede at this very moment.
Hashtag make Westeros great again. Oh my days.
Oh my god! Wow, that's basically the Greens motto, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's
That,
literally it. Bad belly vibes all the way through. But
yeah, but
yes.
I mean, actually, you know what? Speaking of, I guess, mourning people and thinking about the end of the previous episode, it was been quite a reaction to it. I think from everybody who's watched it, and I've been seeing all kinds of takes online as to how they handled the scene. How do you feel about it? I mean, now that it's had a little bit more time to breathe.
I mean, I still think that I wish they just went all the way. I wish they had just done blood and cheese like blood and cheese was in the text. I feel like I completely understand. You know, there's TVs, there's standards, there's ratings, there's polling, and all that politics stuff that I don't quite understand. But like at the same time, I feel like there was just something brutal about the execution of the event that just made everything just kind of go from 0 to 100 from the Greens' perspective. Because I feel like this was the moment when it kind of stops being politicking and starts being like, all right, bet, let's go. And you know, we see that with. I mean, we'll discuss it a lot in the episode, but overall, I wish they had gone more brutal. But just seeing people's reactions to the fact that that child was beheaded was
Hmm.
still I think in a way it elicited the same response. Or it elicited the response it needed. I just wish it was a bit more brutal, just a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen people online calling for a little bit more gore, and it's interesting to see how many people are clamoring to to watch a child get beheaded. But um, I think I think the show actually did the best it could with what it had, and let me explain. There is no Malor, right? They don't have
Hmm.
that second son. The main difference, of course, or at least the linchpin, you could say, of the difference between these two scenes, as far as the book and show is concerned, is the fact that in the book they have two sons to choose from, and here it's just like two kids as to which one is the heir, not which one of your sons should die. It's more like where's the heir? We want to kill that one, right?
Mm,
So I think it actually does a lot to center the conflict back into what started it in the first place, right? Because first things first, in doing this, Damon has actually put Aegon and the Greens in the exact same situation that Viserys was in. Because now Viserys's immediate heirs are his daughter and his brother, right? The show has kind of cleverly done this in such a way that there is real irony in the fact that now they're going to be scrambling in the exact same way if they don't do something because there is no second son, right? There's no
mm,
one to protect in that sense. And on top of that,
mm,
Jaehaerys, the daughter who is saved by Helena as they kill the boy, she is going to have serious survivor's guilt, right? The scene has potency and brutality in that way because because Jaehaerys is going to grow up wondering, I'm only alive because my brother died, essentially. So it's going to be in that vein, but on some level, it could also be a situation of her thinking, I'm only alive because I was not worth killing, right? There's so many different ways that she could process this growing up. And there's also Helena's inevitable guilt when she starts to feel like she should or could have done more after the shock wears off, right? You
Mm,
know, I think her leaving without a scream makes sense for her character. People talked about how, at least I saw people saying that, in the interest of it being a bit more visceral, she should have screamed. But it makes sense for her to leave quietly and actually relish the mercy of the fact that these two killers are no longer paying attention to her and her daughter, especially
mm,
after a knife was just held to her throat.
yeah,
She has this thought probably that if I raise any kind of alarm, they will probably kill us all, right? Shock
definitely.
manifests in different ways for everyone. And you have to understand this from a psychological perspective, right? It's even the fact that after all of this, she then gets into she then gets into Alicent's room and finds her on top of Kristen, right? Think about all the things going on for Helena right now. Like it's too much. And on top of all that, right, you have also the fact that Kristen is really to blame here. And we're going to talk about that, I think, later as far as episode 2 is concerned, because he is hella projecting in this episode. My God.
Bro. I have like in my notes, Kristen
Like,
as like a whole ass thing.
what is going on with that dude? Because you have to think about the fact that he was inside Alicent's room, in Alicent's bed, right? But if he was outside Alicent's door instead, he might have been able to stop this. Like, if you think about the
Mm-hmm.
fact that Kristen could have been doing his job, and if he had, this tragedy would not have unfolded the way it did, right? It's worse when you consider the fact that the Kingsguard is splintered. Everybody's aware of the fact that the Kingsguard is splintered. And as we see in this episode, it's become even more splintered, right? Because there are only 7 of them. And now there are what, 5? Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody is on edge because everybody's feeling like the other side could attack at literally any moment. So why in a situation like that would you let your guard down at night? It's very weird, and
Yeah.
there's so many things and people to blame here. Damon is definitely still at fault, from a moral standpoint anyway, but from a protect your side point of view, the Greens really dropped the ball here, and I feel for Helena. Like, I know I'm Team Black, but like I have to say, like, this person is going through so much here, and we see
Yeah.
even later in the episode she passes Aegon, and like he
And that
doesn't say
motherfucker
anything
just
to her.
walks
Like, I
past.
knew. I'm so glad that they showed us that, because the whole time, even before they showed it, I was like, this guy probably hasn't even talked to her yet. He's just been screaming.
Mm-hmm. But you forgot to blame the most important person that we blame, Viserys. We just have to plug that. Viserys is the reason
So I
for all
believe
of
it's serious
this.
for this situation too.
Viserys is the reason that the sun rises in the west and sets in the north or whatever. Viserys, it's his fault.
Oh my god! Wow, man,
Yeah,
that dude.
I'm like, yeah. I miss him though. I do have to say before we even talk about what happened in the episode and everything, I miss Millie Rock and I miss Paddy Constantine.
Uh
I
huh.
really miss both of those performances, and obviously
They
Emma
were
Darcy
so
has been
good.
killing it. But like, I just miss Millie and
Yeah,
Paddy. Oh,
Paddy brought a real sense of weight to this role.
he
Like, you could
did.
tell that. I mean, I've seen him in a few other things, but oh my god, what he was
This
doing
was
here,
different. This was
I've never
different.
seen. It's literally like somebody gave him spark notes and he wrote a novel. Like, it's insane. He was able to
Yeah,
add such depth to a character that nobody necessarily even thought much of in the book.
literally,
Like,
he was a like almost like a footnote in the history the history of Westeros. But Paddy really brought that character to life. Shout out
what
to
do you
him.
think of the whole? So based on what I've said now, like, how do you feel about the way the show handled
Okay, I
things?
hear you on the point of the irony that it will end up being Rainy Viserys' decision or whatever all over again, a son or a
Hmm.
daughter, and maybe Aegon can even marry again and have other kids and just literally make everything just as bad as it was for him. That
Yeah,
part is something I didn't consider, and it definitely paints it in a different life. But I guess the instant gratification of the brutality is still something that would be missing. But as far as like, then they could just cast another kid. It's they could do that to get Maylor, but
I
honestly,
suppose.
that's all kind of a spilled milk. It's happened the way it's happened, and the book is different
Hmm.
from the shows, and they're always going to take different risks. Overall, I don't think it hurts the story. which I guess is the most important thing. It doesn't hurt the story. It's
Yeah.
just, people being nitpicky and just wanting to see a little bit more gore and violence. But at the same time, I don't think I fault them, because Paddy Constantine's performance of Viserys and George's writing of Viserys, Paddy's is better, and that was a
Hmm.
risk they took. So you have to take risks. Sometimes they succeed, like with Viserys' portrayal. Sometimes they're like Miseria's accent. C'est la vie.
Zara's accent. Oh my god. Actually, speaking of Mizaria and like even side characters, right? In this episode, we see, like in episode 2, we see that Blood and Cheese have been caught. I found that to be a very interesting detail because in the books they said that they caught Blood, the gold cloak guy, and they did not end up catching Cheese.
Hmm.
And in the show, we see that both of them were caught because Aegon just literally went and killed all the rat catchers that work in the Red Keep, which is wild no matter how you look at it. You like literally think about everything that just happened. Think about what they had done with the funeral procession to get the people on their side in order to successfully blame Rhaenyra for everything, just so they can create a perspective and they can actually craft narrative in their favor. Like they could have, they did all that, and like when I saw this boy with his head stitched back onto his body,
Bro, I
I was
was
like,
really. I
yo.
thought that during the procession they were going, when they hit the rock, he said it was going to bounce off. I was like, oh my
Genuinely, like
god, oh my
once I saw
god.
that, like once I saw the wheel, I was like, okay, this kid is good. He's going to fall off. And then, I mean, I wonder if that actually was their plan, but then they decided not to do it
Yeah,
because
we
that
keep
would have been
choosing
a bit
peace.
much. But I liked how they showed Helena's, just overall discomfort and anxiety in that scene. I mean, she's clearly a bit of a dreamer as far as the show is concerned, and I like that they're showing her to be somebody who has like a lot of emotion, and that's it's just fun to see because I think Fia Saban is doing such a good job with that, and even in the way she had to get to Alicent's room in the first place, right?
Mhm.
One interesting detail that I think people may have missed is Helena is queen now, and Alicent is the queen dowager, right? So because they have that dynamic now, because that power has shifted and Helena is the queen, she is actually sleeping in the room that Alicent and Viserys used to sleep in,
Mm.
or at least that Alicent used to sleep in,
You
right?
sleeping, yeah.
And Alicent is actually in Rhaenyra's childhood bedroom now. So
And she's sleeping with Rhaenyra's ex.
like
Oh
literally,
god.
she and Kristen are like engaging in nighttime cardio in Rhaenyra's room, and on top of all of that, it's the same distance, like the same distance she made Rhaenyra walk up the stairs when it came to showing, like presenting her new baby Joffrey to her and Viserys in episode 6 of season 1.
Hmm.
That is now the reverse journey of what Helena had to do in this episode. So she had to go that same distance just to find help, and then when she gets there, she finds her mom, well, ready to help. I would hope. Let's just put it that way.
Eventually.
I think it's
But
I
yeah, we
think it's
should
crazy.
probably dig into this episode. I feel like there's just so much going on that there's so much going on in Westeros right now. It's interesting times. I
Hmm.
did find it interesting that once okay, there's the shock of the moment, instead of Otto to be consoling Alicent, it's just more like, I hear you, but we can use this to our advantage. Everything is just, we can use it to our advantage. That
Hmm.
motherfucker is a schemer. And I think one of my favorite tropes in this, I just noticed it this episode, but I swear he's been doing it since season one, is there's just when Otto hears something he doesn't want to hear, there's a way he closes his eyes, and just like you can feel the stress just get to his head, or you can feel the entire weight of the world just on his face. And I forget that his actor's name, a very Irish sounding name, but you can
Reese
feel the
fans,
weight of it. Sorry?
Reese fans.
Thank you, Reese. And you can feel the weight of the decision when he closes his eyes. I just challenge anyone when you're watching this, the further episodes, to just look at Otto Hightower in the scene where he was having with Aegon towards the end, where he got fired. When Aegon was talking shit, he would
Ooh,
just close his eyes, being like,
It was like, oh my god. First of all, it's
Child.
like, bro, I'm here again. Like, like one of these dudes is about to fire me again. Like, there's that,
These
and there's the fact
goddamn
that it's just like, yo,
Targaryens.
he's like, bro, like, oh my god, this kid,
Yeah,
and
Oda was pissed, man. And I felt I
uh,
understood everything because I feel like another theme this episode is like you have people making plans. Rhaenyra is making these plans. Daemon just goes to kill the boy, and all of a sudden shit hits the fan. Alice Odo is making these plans. Alicent is making these plans, and Aegon just who has the actual power to do whatever he wants just is making moves that compromise their position in every move in every step of the way. It's
yeah,
they scheme so much to get this boy in power, and now that he's in power and he's doing whatever he wants, and all of a
it's
sudden
like
they're like, "Oh
Tyrion once
no!"
said, right? It's hard to put a leash on a dog after
Once you
you
put
put a
a crown
crown
on
on
his
its
head.
head.
hmm Well, again, there are two Tyrions. There's Tyrion pre Danny and post Danny. This is pre
Yes,
Tyrion Danny
this is
when he was
before he
still
drank the dum dum juice. Yes, I remember. Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
days.
Season two
Yeah,
Tyrion was peak.
peak man, peak strategy. But yeah, what do you think about the Hightowers plan though? Just to try and turn everyone against Rhaenyra. Do you feel like
I think it makes
without
sense.
Aegon's it makes sense. Do you think
It,
it feel like it could have been successful?
I think it was successful. I think it
Ooh,
actually was successful. I think they were
okay.
successful in getting everybody to believe that Rhaenyra was responsible for this, even though she had no idea that it happened. And that's the
hmm
tragedy of this story, right? Everybody is getting blamed for stuff that they didn't do. Everybody's getting blamed for stuff that they didn't do because it just benefits the other side to
Yeah.
control the narrative. And
Yep.
she's here having to deal with all this stuff because Damon, the rogue prince, is out here making decisions without consulting anybody. This is a huge
Yep.
thing that's been done here. And he feels like, yeah, fire and blood. He's all about fire and blood. But there's only so much of that you can engage in before you start to destroy the world and yourself,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. It's giving Littlefinger vibes. I'd rather be king of
Exactly.
the ashes.
Literally. And even now, right, there's a bit of a shift, not just in terms of the politics, but also in terms of the seasons and how that's going to affect war plans and all that stuff. Because in episode one, they actually mentioned quite a few times that summer is ending. Like a few people actually made that remark that summer is coming to an end, and I don't know how much winter or wintry stuff we're going to see in this show, but yeah, it's worth thinking about because that's going to affect a lot of stuff if it does come to fruition. I know they're looking for a new master of ships, right? Because Beesbury was killed by Cole. They're considering
Mm.
Dalton Greyjoy, which, well, let's. The fact that they mentioned his name makes me wonder. I guess okay, maybe we will see a Greyjoy in this series, but I don't necessarily need it
Yeah.
because after everything now, like the Greens are going to they're going to have a lot to think about, especially since as Otto is getting fired, like you said, right? He goes and he talks to Alicent, and she can't believe what she's hearing. But
hmm
then Darren's name is mentioned for the first time,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that I like. I
I
very
like
much
that
like
too.
because after we had this whole son for a son thing on on Father's Day, right?
It
I
was on
think
Father's Day.
it was on Father's Day. Yeah, these people have a crazy sense of humor.
Uh,
Now after we've had that, we have a new son being introduced, and I think it's going to be funny because people are going to either be like, this dude is insane, or wow, Alicent had one sane child this entire time.
and she sent him away.
Oh my
And she
gosh.
sent him away. And I think he's the
Yeah,
baby of the family.
he's
So
the youngest. Yeah, he is the
yeah, that's
youngest.
interesting. But
So
yeah,
I think we'll
Daron has
see
mentioned.
him. We're gonna see Gwen Hightower, played by Freddie Fox, Otto's son. I know we saw a bit of him in episode one of season one when he was when they were having that tournament with the jousting, but
Mhm.
we didn't actually get to really see him. So now we'll meet the guy and see what's going on.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of sorrow at this point. We saw like in episode one, for example, we saw the sorrow on Cheese's face when he realized that Helena was telling the truth. I wonder if that was a little bit of like remorse in the moment. But
I
obviously,
doubt
we
it.
saw him. They hangs the guy, and like we saw
Yeah.
that the dog was there. Like, if in case you had any doubts, they showed the dog. It's like, okay, yeah, this dog, like it's wild. Like, because they never got the second half. Like, the fact that they said they caught this dude with
With the
the
head,
head in a
bro,
bag, it's
bro.
like,
That's
yo, you
like,
guys didn't even try.
yeah, honestly, I always thought that's like when you get caught like in a stolen car. What are you gonna say? Something, there's nothing you can say, right? They
There's
caught this
nothing. There's
nigga with
nothing to say.
with the evidence, literally in a bag. But I
Yeah,
did
this
feel
guy's
like
messed
the
up.
whole ploy to try and all be all, oh, Rhaenyra's evil. Look what she's did is. I mean, they literally killed Lucerys like a few weeks ago. They,
Yeah, but the thing is,
a
the
whole
people, the
life
small
dragon
folk,
ate
don't know
them.
that.
They
Like this
don't.
scheme, I don't think they really know yet, because essentially is this scheme is supposed to get the small folk on their side. That's the Greens' whole strategy.
Mm,
They're trying to, at least Otto is trying to play the long game politically, in the
mm,
sense that he's like, here's we the nobles, we the royal family, we know what we know, right?
yeah.
But is Misaria told him, you only take as much power as the people allow you to take.
Hmm.
That's the situation. And you and I both know that the people are very important in this story, right?
Mm,
I think that's the reason they're even showing us more of them. Like, we saw Hugh and his family, and they're showing us his woes. And
hmm.
that is not an accident. I'm just going to tell everybody listening now, that is not an accident. I
Mm.
think these first two episodes are going to have a lot of really, really good rewatch value. Like, after the season is over, after the next season is over, you come back and you watch these two episodes, and you're just like, wow, I should
Wow.
have known.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
should have known. So yeah, like, they're trying to get the small folk on their side. So I think it's definitely a weird plan, because it could go very wrong, and it also puts them in danger. That was actually my main thing. It's taking them out into what could turn into a riot,
Yeah.
right? But what ends up happening instead is, they do a lot of like pushing, the cart almost falls, people are trying to like give them favor, people are sympathizing with them, and they have somebody in front literally shouting, this is the work of the pretender Rhaenyra. And I'm like, wow, Otto is working overtime.
Literally.
Like, this
And he
man
got
is earning
fired
his
for it.
salary.
And he got fired for it, man. That just
Yeah,
tells you, man,
because Aegon did
undercapitalism.
everything. Like, you can't
Yeah.
say, "Oh, Rhaenyra is worse than me," and then go on and kill innocent men.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who you were
Mm-hmm.
killing. Like, it's an interesting detail that they added, that because he
Mm-hmm.
really undid all of the goodwill.
Yep.
And speaking of which, actually, I love the way they're portraying Aegon in this show.
I was going to say that that was the best performance of the episode. Aegon's
The writers
performance,
and Tom Glencarney,
shout out to them.
yeah, they're doing a great job, because they're showing him, they're not just showing him as some kind of like gremlin, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're showing him as somebody who is nice to the small folk, who is actually a fun guy, who,
Mm-hmm.
despite not wanting to rule before, is adjusting to the mantle, and is even trying to groom his son for the role. It I think it's very notable that he does that, because he probably brings Jaehaerys into that small council chamber because he wishes his own father had been a bit more involved with him.
Mm.
Viserys basically ignored all of his children. Like, let's be real here.
Except for
Even
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra,
No,
like,
no, no. Except for Rhaenyra. He tried with
he
Rhaenyra.
tried a
That one I'll
bit with
say.
Rhaenyra in terms of actually interacting with her, but he didn't treat her as any more than a princess who would maybe bring some kind of political alliance.
True,
We've
true.
established a lot that he did not do a good job of preparing her for the role, despite the fact that he wanted everybody to accept her as his successor.
As a role, yeah, true. She
If he
should have
had
been in
done
the
that, we
small
wouldn't
council
be in this
meetings.
situation.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
should
and
have.
it's funny because, like,
We still would have, because Otto would still have been Otto, and he would still have done all his things.
yeah, but
But
still, like, I mean, he named her as the heir, and then brought her to the small council chambers, and she was pouring wine in people's cups. Like, you're not going to give her a seat at this table? What's wrong with you?
yeah, yeah. But again, like I said, just as I started the episode, Viserys is just making bad decisions.
Hmm.
I do feel for Helena though. I just there was something about the performance of Helena's character this episode that just kind of made me just want to go hug her. She just
Hmm.
seemed very like she she was like on like on the edge the whole time. Even though the small folks were being sympathetic, she didn't want to be out there. She just kind of wanted to be left to her own devices, and
Yeah,
Yeah, I felt for Helena this episode, and even Rhaenyra felt for Helena in her small council
of
meeting
course,
when she was like,
of
"Why would
course.
she to Helena of all
Like
people?"
this, because it's like, yo, this is my sister. She's innocent.
Exactly, exactly. She's
She
literally
has nothing
innocent
to do with any of this.
with any of this, and
And I
I
think,
love the fact that all everyone at the table knew it was Damon. The look Rhaenys gave Damon, and the look even Rhaenyra gave Damon when she realized,
once she
that was my
realized,
best part of the episode.
nah, bro,
That
because
look was a 10 out of 10. Shout
he
out
definitely didn't
to
think this through,
he
because
did.
it
He
makes
did.
her look so bad. Like
Mm-hmm.
Targaryen, Faith of the Seven, old gods, whatever you ally yourself with, whatever you align yourself with, whoever you worship, kinslaying is considered really, really bad. You do not kill family in this
Yeah.
world. That is
Yeah.
just a bad thing that always bodes terribly for people and
Unless you're
always
Jon
turns
Snow.
people against them. Yeah.
Unless you're Jon Snow. You can kill Danny all day, every day.
But even that didn't work out well for him. Like they
True.
immediately locked him up. They immediately locked him up, like, and then they sent him away. Like literally, that's just not something you do. So that's why she tells Damon that he's weakened her claim,
Yes, he
because
does.
now
He
people are
has.
just going to see her not just as a pretender, but as somebody who is willing to do the most underhanded of things just to get a little bit ahead. You
Mm.
know, she had serious grief. It's worth noting that in the previous episode, she only had one line, right? She just said, I want Aemon
Hey,
Targaryen.
well, yeah.
And there are people who think that she should have said more, despite her grief. You're like, okay, you're back now, let's wash all this off. But clearly they don't know how grief works, right? But I think, because obviously grief is complicated, but I think her having that one line in episode one is probably the best way to avoid undercutting what the show wants us to feel in our journey of connecting with her and her point of
Mm.
view, because we see what she's going through. We see her crying. We see everything that's happening like on her side. And that line is all that she's able to really get out. If she starts having too much dialogue, then it distracts from like what she's feeling. And what she's feeling is what's most important. Because there might have been hope after, even a slight hope after Lucerys died, but like hope of like reconciliation, maybe, because she knows that whoever did this, like this definitely wasn't done by Otto. It definitely wasn't done by Alicent. Aegon isn't smart enough to think of this. They could have just said, okay, sacrifice Aemond or whatever, and then maybe we can move forward. But now that it's a son for a son,
That's GG's.
it's over. It's
Yeah.
over. So like Rhaenyra actually, she would not want to inflict that same grief.
Yeah.
That's just not how motherhood works. Like I don't think
Yeah.
mothers want to inflict that kind of pain on other mothers generally, and I
Yeah.
think the show is aware of that. And Rhaenyra is just not that kind of person.
Yeah, she's not, and I loved her conversation with Damon. I felt like there was a lot of truth being dropped there, and Damon was kind of gaslighting her, being like, "I'm going to raise an army for you. I'm doing all this for you,"
Are you really
you
doing it for
know.
me?
No, he's not, because especially when he was talking about, he wasn't referring to her throne. He was saying my brother's throne. And Rhaenyra was badass. I
She's
was
like, it's
smart enough to
mine.
catch up on that. Exactly, it's my throne. And like, I was even like,
Hmm.
if Damon was like, it's your throne, yes, but like, I miss my brother, and he wanted it for you, so I'm doing this for him and you. I'd have been like, okay, I guess, in some fucked up way. But he just made everything about him. The reason why Viserys named you as heir is because you're weak, and he doesn't want Damon, who can be greater than he is. And in season one, I did make the argument that Viserys needed Damon by his side, and I still, stand by that argument. But I just feel like a lot of Damon's, like, maybe narcissism, I guess, was so apparent this episode, because he just kept centering himself around the whole conflict. And in a way, he is a very central character in the conflict, because he's married to the person whose throne was stolen. But that doesn't mean that, like, he gets to just do whatever he wants. But yeah, Damon has left um, Dragonstone. That's a bit of a blow for the blacks, in my opinion, just because Caraxes is a very, serpentine badass dragon, and obviously in the conflicts to come, I feel like every dragon has such an important role. But Damon has left for the Riverlands, and I'm curious to see where he'll pop up.
Is he actually in the Riverlands though?
Yeah, he said something about going there, I think.
He
No?
talked about going to Harrenhal. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
Harrenhal is in the
But
Riverlands.
yeah, I know. But like, what if he went somewhere else?
Ooh, Cloak and Dagger. All right, I guess we'll see where Damon pops up. But do you think that he actually told them like to go look for a son? Like if they don't find Amon, because they asked, and the camera cuts to black then in
Yeah.
episode one. So what do
I
you
think the
think
show wants
happened in
us
that
to make
conversation?
our own inferences on that. It's
Well,
like
what are your inferences on that?
I think that he probably told them find a son. And the reason I say that is because at one point, you know, Helena tries to offer her necklace and, he takes it, but he doesn't really do anything to her. And then they discuss whether they should just kill her and go. And Blood says she's not a son. So even though they didn't show us what Damon told those guys, right? I thought a lot about it. It's like, did he tell them just kill anybody you can find? Or did he give them a list of names? Because bear in mind, these are small folk, right? And the thing about small folk in this world, they know these people by name and reputation. They know them because of the power they have in their lives. But it's quite possible, like you can live your entire life without actually ever seeing the king.
Hmm.
You know, you probably so it's very unlikely that they know what Helena actually looks like.
Mm,
Like I think Blood, as he gets there, he's even wondering like, oh, who is this that you
yeah,
that you're holding like and putting a knife to her throat, right? And then he has to tell her, she's the queen, and then
yeah,
that's where the whole thing starts. So I think the fact that he was like, but she's is not a son, that kind of tells me that he may have said something along the lines of just like if you don't find one son, find another.
yeah, yeah. I think that nigga did that shit. Guilty as fuck. He definitely told it because I feel like also with Helena saying, they killed the boy. This that the boy, the son. I feel like it was that phrase was used enough times
Yeah,
to build like a trend in the conversation. And also, like I said, anytime Helena says anything, I put on my tinfoil hat
I
and
don't understand how
I
people are
start
not
pondering,
listening yet. She's
bro.
been talking for years and you
You're
guys are
spitting
not
bars,
listening. This
bro.
is why you keep
You're
getting
spitting
into
bars.
problems.
Literally. Well, I mean, again, prophecy is a double-ended sword. The things she's saying, maybe they're inevitable. Maybe like, there's no way anybody can change. It's just going to happen.
You,
Because she
you can't
she
change the
also doesn't
future. You can't beat the
almost
speed
seem
force.
exactly. Oh, that dude sounds funny. But she's also doesn't seem to be in a way aware of what she's saying because she will say something, but as I'm like, if it's me and I feel like I know something's gonna happen, I'll try and change it. Like you show, like I'm scared of the rats, nigga.
Hmm.
So Kristen Cole, come guard my room instead of fucking my mom in my sister's childhood bed.
Do you know what even gets me? Like, the show is actually very smart because Alison and Kristen's relationship is not mentioned in the books at all.
It's
Like
not.
that's not actually a thing.
It's
So
not.
the show has added it. I know we talked last week about like, is this something that has been happening recently or has it been going on for a while? There's a part of me that feels like it happened within the past 2 weeks because
Mm,
there's just some kind of awakening. I feel like a lot of people think maybe it's been going on secretly, but to get that confirmation was interesting to me. And
yeah.
it's the kind of thing that we probably would have just speculated on, but it doesn't really exist as fact. So it's it's not really reported in the book. So it's like the show expanding on what their dynamic was for the sake of the narrative. So when we now go and look at the book again, it's like, what if there was actually some kind of relationship between these
Yeah.
two and that's why they're doing what they're doing? So the
Yeah.
whole episode actually features various instances of Alicent taking control of her body and actually starting
Mm.
to enjoy, I guess, the food at the brunch she's having with Kristen. So like she dismisses her handmaidens. She wants to bathe herself now. Like noble women back then, or at least in the time that in our own world that this fictional series is emulating, they did not know a lot about bathing themselves. Like nobles in general, they just had no idea how to do anything for themselves. But Alicent happens to, and that's why you have like handmaidens and stuff all the time, right? But it's an interesting detail that they show Alicent taking over and doing it herself because she happens to know how to bathe herself because she used to
Mm.
bathe Viserys.
That
So
was actually kind of cute, though. The fact
yeah,
that like she did kind of like take care of him, and in this is and doesn't affect the show, but even in season just before season one started, when the king Jaehaerys, the old king at the start of season one, episode one, when he was on his
mhm,
deathbed, Alicent also kind of took care of him. So I
yeah,
find that cute. I find this
Yes,
episode I'm
she has.
slightly more sympathetic towards the Greens, but
Oh, I see.
man,
Let me just make sure there aren't any like green elements in your.
dude, I hid all my plans for the before we
Oh
started
my god!
recording. I said no, you ain't gonna catch me slipping.
But you know
Not
what?
today, devil.
Let's push back a little bit on the greens. I hate on them
Okay,
just a tiny bit more because
okay,
Alicent and Kristen criticized
yeah,
Rhaenyra for supposedly putting sexual desires above duty.
bro.
But now look at what's happening because of
It's the
and that you see how
hypocrisy.
Alicent is blaming herself in this episode. And
Yeah.
Otto is asking her, like, for what sin? What sin is it that you think this is punishment for? And she doesn't say because she can't say because if she
Mhm.
says, no, they
If
say,
she
Wahala
speaks,
be
we're
like
in
bicycle.
trouble. We can't speak.
If I
We
speak,
can be
I'm
in
in
trouble.
trouble. No, literally, because like Alicent is going through it mentally, and like she's still so repressed, despite the fact that she is she's essentially learning how to be a bit more expressive, but she's
Yeah,
losing control, right? She spent all her
yeah,
time trying to, bring heirs and, supposedly raise them and stuff. But
yeah,
now we're in a situation where she's that control is being taken away from her. Like she's losing her influence. And
yeah,
I think she's like that repression shows actually in her children. I know this may sound crazy to some people, but like I actually kind of think Aegon and Aemond are everything that Alicent suppresses within herself. Aemond especially.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
they are
That's a
actually
very
their
astute
mother. Let's never
observation. Yep.
forget that scene where Aemon lost his eye and she grabbed the dagger of Viserys' body to to start killing somebody. I was like, yo, hold on.
How they see you as you
Hold
are. Yep.
like the way that just exploded right out of her. I encourage everyone listening to me right now to actually just go and watch that scene again and remind yourself of who Alicent really is.
Hmm.
Because the High Towers have a set of values, like over the course of the story, and even in the original series, Game of Thrones, right? There's a lot of talk of family values, and not just family values, but the values of each family that we see. Like, for example, the Lannisters are very concerned with image. They're concerned with wealth. They're concerned with legacy, right? The Starks are all about honor. The Tullys are all about family, in a sense. The Targaryens are about power. They're about conquest, and they're about dynastic. They're about dynastic rule, and the Baratheons are essentially about strength. We see
Illiterate
all these kinds
strength.
of things, and like the High Towers are interesting to me because they are about duty in a way that I think surpasses any other house,
I
and
think the
that's why
intellectuals.
Alicent. Yeah, they've been around for like a very long time, and I think I'll talk more about this as the weeks go on. But I think they have a certain disposition towards the Targaryens who came and like destroyed the power balance, or I don't know if we can even call it the power balance. What was there before Aegon the Conqueror showed up? Because these kingdoms were actually fighting each other from time to time. But you know, the High Towers have been around for God knows how long. Because Old Town has been around for God knows how long, and we don't know how old Old Town is. That's literally why we call it Old Town.
Hmm.
These people have been a beacon of light, and it shows in their sigil, and they have a sense of responsibility that sort of governs the way they see themselves and the way they portray themselves to the world. I think that's why Alicent was raised to be so dutiful. Literally everything she's done in this series has been for the sake of others because she feels like she has to do her duty. That's why she is so viscerally opposed to the idea of Rhaenyra antithetically just shirking duty at every turn. That's why she feels
Yeah,
so superior to her morally. And that's why
yeah,
we can only see what she's doing right now as hypocrisy. Because it's like,
yeah,
despite everything you've been saying, look at you.
yeah.
And now
Like my
look at your
friend,
children.
yeah, literally. One of my friends, Christine, had some. Shout out to Christine. Had some good points that we talked about with just with first of all the religious hypocrisy is just a very fundamental one,
Because
and
she's so
even
pious, right? Yeah.
so but it's not, it's again, it's religious hypocrisy, so it's pious, but then you're sleeping with Kristen. And honestly, looking at their relationship, it, especially the slapping at the end, it seems to have more of the passion of a new
It made
relationship
me
than
wonder,
like,
is that how they start every time?
No, no, no. I think that's just that. This again. I think it's just because it's new. It's just watching that scene seems to have that like extreme passion of a new relationship where you're just kind of. And
Uh-huh.
Kristen knew. I mean, he's now the hand of the king. We haven't even talked about Kristen. But with Alicent, there's this sense of just control that she's just trying to have because again, she had power through the king, and now she has power through her sons, and she doesn't have any dragons, so she doesn't, at least in the world, have any innate power, over like herself. It's kind of like what Cersei's issues were. A lot of the times her powers was, power through her husband, power through Joffrey, power through Tommen. It was only at the end when she had power like through herself, and I think Alicent feels something similar
Uh-huh.
um, and that's just giving her a bit of whiplash. But first of all, Team Green, fuck her, we don't give a shit. Kristen fucking Cole, Jesus Christ, man, this man,
Yeah, man.
I
Wow.
was so triggered. Like, shout out to Fabian, I forget his last name,
Fabian
or if
Frankel.
that's
Yeah.
thank you,
He's
because he's
good.
putting in a shift. Because I fucking hate Kristen Cole. Like, I hate this man
Like
so
who
much.
knew he was gonna be like Kristen Cole
He's
was
worse than
already so
Joffrey.
like he's
He's
so
worse than
questionable
Joffrey.
even in the books, right? Because and in the books he's called Kristen the Kingmaker because in the books he's actually the one who convinces Aegon that this is what he should do. He's the one who crowns him. That whole coronation scene in episode 9 of season 1, like that was cool and all, but I think it sort of made it. I know they were going for something different. They wanted it to be like, okay, this is happening in front of the people. This is
Mhm.
happening to legitimize the idea of Aegon the Second as king, right? We had Aegon the First, the Conqueror, Aegon. There are other Aegons, right? And
Yeah, we can't talk about
yeah, we can't
that.
really talk about them yet because I know that obviously we like there's just so many different Targaryen kings all up until we get like the last Aegon, Jon Snow, who is like
He's last
Aegon
year.
the Sixth, I believe.
Six, yeah, six.
Um, Spoilers for Game of Thrones, sorry, but if you're here, then I'm sure you probably already know. So I think with Aegon the Second, who I guess I'm gonna dub the Wasteman, right? We have Aegon the Conqueror and Aegon the Wasteman. I feel like him having Kristen in his life is just like the worst recipe for disaster.
hmm It's literally like unchecked stupidity. And first of all, he's not Christian
It's the
the
blind leading the
kingmaker,
blind. Like Otto was like,
bro.
"Yo, you're gonna fire me? You're gonna fire
You,
me, and then hire him?" He said, "Give
bro,
him the badge." He said, "Like, take it."
take it. And then all
Like
of
he
a
should
sudden,
actually leave. I
Christian,
hope he's not planning to stay. Like he
who
should go
although no,
to he should go
it's
to
Old
Old
Town
Town
or
and like
wherever. Yeah,
retire. Just retire.
yeah.
You served 4 kings. Please retire.
Oh my God, that is true. And I
Like
know that's
please.
all the time. He's just closing his eyes, just closing his eyes as he contemplates his stupidity before him. Because how can you name Kristen fucking Pussyfoot as a goddamn as the goddamn hand of the king, bro? That is such a bad decision. How can you be your number two? Because the hand of the king is essentially the king is a lot of the
He's the
time.
one who is ruling the kingdom, really.
Exactly. The hand is who does like the work, the day-to-day work of what goes into it. And that's why Robert Baratheon's kingdom was able to survive for so long because he had a good
Yeah.
hand before
Hmm.
he called Ned to be the hand. But it's just such a bad decision because how can one of the first things that your hand does, or this was before he was named the hand, be to say, "Hey, Sir Twin, you go and sneak into Rhaenyra's camp and pose as your other twin, and
Bro,
then
it,
kill
it was
Rhaenyra, bro."
literally giving let's go beyond the wall and grab a white and bring it down to show. So like I was like, what are you
Uh,
talking about
no,
right
no, no, it
now?
wasn't that bad. That is such a stupid decision because
The
Cersei
only
didn't end up
reason
coming
it
home.
wasn't that bad is because we knew where it was coming from. It wasn't
Mm,
coming from like borderline brain dead writing. It was coming from brain dead Kristen Cole because
exactly,
because
exactly,
he's projecting. He's like,
exactly.
"Yo,
So
this is
much,
my
man.
fault. I should have been
hmm
doing my job." Like they both know. You can see Alicent and Kristen looking at each other in that small council chamber, and you can see the guilt, but they can't
hmm
speak. And later she asks him like, "Oh, did you tell anyone?" And even me, I was like,
Take
"What
it,
do you
bro.
mean? Did he tell? Do you think he wants to die? Like, why
hmm
would he tell anyone or what's going on?
Exactly,
Like, both of you are projects to each other. Leave the rest of us out of it because it's
fam,
getting annoying. How can he
fam. I'm
show up and
so
be
triggered,
like, oh, where were you when this was happening?
nigga.
Where were
Where were
you?
you?
Like you, where were you?
I was so triggered, man. And there's this look on his stupid face that he gets. Again, shout out to
Mm.
Fabian. There's this fucking stupid ass look he has on his face when I can tell he's about to be self righteous. Where he's like put his hand behind his back and he has this like smug, like I'm better than all of you
Like, how
energy.
does he start the conversation with like, "Yo, your cloak is dirty. What is this? Are you mad?" I love how the other King's Guard just
Just
quietly
left you
stood
like,
up and left.
yeah, this
They
is
were
not
like,
my. This is,
"Nope,
nope, I ain't
we're
catching
not
no strays
participating
here.
in this."
Yo,
That
Kristen
was
is a fucking
absolutely
fool,
wild.
man. Kristen is a
Jeez,
fool.
man.
Well, shout out to the twins, Sir Eric and Eric. Till today, I don't know who is who. I just call them Sir Twins.
Sir
Um,
Twins.
yeah, that was so. I think the way it happens in the book is slightly different in the sense that we don't
Mhm.
know how it happens. They
I
were
think they
given
died. They supposedly died in
contracting.
battle or something.
Yeah, I mean they die, but like one person says that they fight for hours and nobody intervenes because they couldn't tell who was who, and they killed each other and started crying. Some person says they killed each other and they
The way they
were
did it in
they
the
were
show
cussing each other
was
out.
definitely good.
It was good. Yeah,
That was
I just liked it.
good.
I loved it. It was because
And the
there
fact
was
that it
a lot
happened in
of like
Rhaenyra's room too, in such a small
right,
space, because you don't
right.
use long swords in such a way.
In such confined spaces. Yeah, it just felt very like it felt very what are you doing? No, what are you doing? No, stop this. But like
The Spider-Man
ultimately
meme.
exactly it's fucking Spider-Man meme and it's just almost like there's no way of just stopping and talking because both were just so determined that it was almost like they couldn't see the fact that they were twins and brothers. They were just their duty, and I low key respected even both of them, even the one who came to kill Rhaenyra, because I was like, he was so steadfast in his decision. Oh,
It
sorry,
shows
his
their honor,
decision.
right? It shows the honor because obviously they're divided by the fact that you know they both want to be honorable, but they see this differently. They see their duty differently.
Yeah,
They've been sworn to the King's Guard literally for their entire like adult lives, right? It's all they know, and like like Eric, the one who is in Dragonstone is Eric. The one who is in King's Landing is Arik.
I hear
So
you,
as
but I was in through one ear, out through the other ear. But sorry, go
okay,
on.
okay. So as let me how do I put this? So as Rhaenyra's Sir Twin
Okay.
tells Daemon in episode one, we're sworn to protect the royal family. What were we to do when they turned against each other, right?
Hmm.
And I like how they paid that off in this episode so quickly, right? Because Kristen comes up with this idiotic plan, and he's like, "I'm sending you're sending me to my death. Like you know that you're sending me to my death because this plan
Hmm.
is ridiculous." I love that in the moment, like literally right there, he calls out the plan. He's like, "This doesn't make any sense," but he does it anyway because it's like it sort of behooves me and my honor to do what the Lord Commander of the King's Guard is saying.
Hmm.
Hopefully, I come back alive.
Hmm.
And I think he knew on some level that he didn't stand a chance because even if he did manage to kill Rhaenyra, he would never
How
have
does
made
he
it out of that
use
building.
exactly? Exactly.
So the fact that he was stopped, like the show just used everything at its disposal to make everything happen organically. Because obviously he was hiding, and it shows like he showed a little bit of stealth, which is hard to do when you're like literally in shimmering silver armor and a white
White.
cloak,
Yeah.
right? But I thought it was funny how a bunch of people land like via a boat and Misaria is about to leave and then she just sees like there's like a whole bunch of peasants and then there's a knight in literal shining armor and she's like, wait, I know that guy. Like I know this guy. And she's like I wondered, okay, how did Rhaenyra's Sir Twin actually how was he able to come back and
I
actually
think it
get
was
into
Miss
this room
Area.
and stop this whole thing?
I think it was Miss
It,
Area.
yeah, I wondered. I was like, "Oh, did they just not? Did they show Rosario realizing who that was for nothing?" But then I realized that it's definitely because she alerted that Targaryen guard that they were able to actually get Eric there, and they knew that
Yeah.
something was up.
Yeah.
So that was pretty interesting. I know somebody probably is watching that episode and thinking, "Oh, Rhaenyra, run! Like, don't just lie there." And literally, I'm like, "Run to where?
Run into the blade in front of you.
Like, where is she supposed to go?" And then dude comes back. I forget his name. The other night who was sent to take a nap. He comes
Yeah,
back and like he doesn't know who to help. And
yeah,
that's just crazy.
that was cute. That was yeah. The whole
It
scene
was
was
so
so
brutal.
tragic,
And the
so
fact
tragic.
that he won, the fact
He
that Eric
won.
Rhaenyra said to it won, but then it's like, I
Yeah,
cannot live this down and falls on his
exactly.
sword
Literally
is,
fell on his sword.
man.
It was so tragic, man. That was such a sad scene, but it was such a beautiful one. I love that scene so much. The
Mm.
chaos, the yeah, the emotions. Shout out to Said Twins, man. They were real ones. They were unfortunately just divided by fate and Sir Pussyfoot.
And I actually think one of the reasons their performance is so good is because it is different from the way the Lannister twins are portrayed. Because those guys are the same guy.
Hmm.
Those guys are actually
Really?
being played by, yeah, those guys are being played by the same guy.
Oh, I did not know that. I thought they were actual twins.
Yeah, it's but the Night twins are actual twins in real
The
life.
Night Twins.
Yeah,
What do
like
you mean?
this are twins that you're calling them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
those
wait,
are
they're
actual
actual
twins.
twins, but only
They're
one
actual.
person plays both of them.
No, they're actual twins. But the Lannister twins, like Tyland and Jason,
Oh, okay, okay, okay,
those are
okay,
played
okay,
by the
okay,
same
gotcha.
guy.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, sorry, yeah, yeah. When you said
Yeah.
Lannister twins, my head went to Cersei and Jamie.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, true. That's fair. That's I can't blame you for that. That is fair. But yeah, the Lannister twins in this show are played by played by the
By
same guy.
one
But
person,
these
yeah.
twins, the knights
Okay,
are the same are actual
are
twins, and
twins,
I
yeah,
think that's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
But rewinding a little bit, right? Misaria and her role here.
yeah. Yeah.
Is she absolved? Like,
For
I
doing
don't know if
wait,
she's actually
absolved for
absolved.
doing what? What did she do?
She did a lot too.
Like what? What did
she
she do?
okay.
After they made her get a miscarriage, the goddamn greens. What did she do? All she has done, she's absolved because she's changed her accent. That was it. Everything else, let's go.
But did she actually have a miscarriage? Because I thought she implied that that pregnancy was a lie, according to like
Oh
Damon
my
said
god,
that
that's
she was
true.
carrying his child.
That's true.
But like that was literally just a ploy because he was
Okay,
trying to get
okay.
Viserys' attention. And
Absolved for he was trying to get
absolved
Viserys'
absolved
attention.
for putting the Greens in power.
Did she
Because
again? But did she put the
and
Greens in
but
power?
okay, so here's the thing, right? She said that this is transactional, right? And she helped, but she said it was transactional, and she was just passing Aegon along and giving up his location. But she knew what she was doing. She literally participated in the usurping of the throne and was very aware that that's what she was doing. She was aware that if I give away this guy's location, they're going to find him and they're going to put him on the throne. If she hadn't done that, the blacks would have had more time.
How
They
much
would
more
have.
time? A day?
About just about a day.
Yeah,
That's
but like
enough. On
what
Dragonback,
enough
that's
to
enough.
I hear you, but I feel like it's they were going to take the throne anyways. I feel like the show, yes, the show kind of placed finding Aegon as the most important thing, and she had Aegon, so she had the most important thing in that moment. But I
Hmm.
feel like we would still have ended up where we were because even if by some, Rhaenyra was there the next day, which it takes a while for ravens to fly, but and they could have hidden the news that Viserys died because they really did hide the news that Viserys died. There's only a few people
Yeah.
who knew. So even if I feel like again, this all started by Viserys making bad decisions. He should have married that 12-year-old girl. Was it nine? That 9-year-old girl when he had the chance.
I can't
Once
believe
that
you're saying that
happened,
again on the internet.
guy,
That is just your running line. He should have married the 12-year-old girl.
well, I think she was 9. But my point is that
Oh,
once
God.
that happened, all of this I feel was inevitable. You're right.
Uh,
Viserys did benefit. She did. She benefited from the situation
she
by
was going
holding a
to, then they
peace,
burned her building
and they
because they didn't
burnt her
want her to have too
building.
much influence.
Exactly, exactly. So she got burnt, but in my head, I think all this would still have happened. I think it might just have played out slightly differently. But like Otto said, do you think that Viserys wanted you on the throne? Who do you think got you there? It was me. It was me and my scheming and my daughter and House Hightower, not Mysaria. So she had a role to play, but is she absolved? No. But I don't think her role was. She wasn't like in a way she got used. If I'm being honest, I think she
Hmm.
got used. Um, but we'll see because I feel like she's the fact that Sir Twin came back. I think she's the one who told Sir Twin, and
Hmm.
that is almost kind of like a declaration to me that she's kind of Team Black. Not because she believes in Rhaenyra or anything, but because you know. I think it looks like she believes that there's a game to be played and there's benefit to be won here. So why go back to Essos and just be nothing when I can like kind of, well, those guys fucked me over. Maybe I can be Team Rainier and benefit from it.
Yeah, I do think she's going to go that way. Even if Rhaenyra was going to let her go for, I mean, and I'm glad that Rhaenyra actually honored that pledge. It
Yeah.
shows the kind of person that she
Shout
is.
out to Rainier.
Yeah, but I think Mysaria probably has a lot more use, not just to the story, but to the blacks here. Because
Yeah.
before she was allied with Daemon, and that was her connection to the blacks. But if she's allied with Rhaenyra, then that gives her a little bit more of a seat at the table from a
Yep.
place of solidarity,
Yep.
as far as Rhaenyra is concerned.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how that relationship between the two of them plays out.
As long as there are no
Speaking of
accents.
relationships, of the accent.
Yeah. Relationships.
Speak, speaking of relationships, we saw a little bit of familiar dynamics in this episode outside of some of our main players. I liked that we got to see a moment of Damon leaving the castle and passing Bela, who, like, I think people forget is his daughter. I don't think, I feel like I need to remind people in this show that Bela and Reyna are Damon's daughters with
Mm-hmm.
Lena Velaryon, previous writer of Vigor.
Mm-hmm.
And they're,
Oh
of
my
course,
god, and they're
betrothed.
engaged to their
Yeah, they're
stepbrothers.
engaged to Rhaenyra's sons. I'm aware. Yes, just
This family, bro. This is
let's let it
again.
go.
Okay, this is not like a pure circle. It's maybe like an oval or something.
This is like a square at this point. This particular part of it is a square.
Oh my
So
god.
I think I think it was cool that we got to see Jaehaerys and Bela talking.
Hmm.
We got to see what it is, for them to relate, to interact, because we've obviously we know that they're together, but we don't actually see them talk much. And I like that they're showing us that, and I like what
Yeah.
they're talking about. Again, with this whole like a Father's Day theme, they're talking about fathers. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, how's my father doing? What did you see? And it's weird because even though they have that to discuss, and Jaceres definitely knows who his own father figures are, he doesn't shy away from it. Like when he's talking about them, he talked about Leno, for example, and how he taught them to fish. He spent time with them, and
Yeah.
then Bela asks about Harwin Strong, which I find very interesting
Yeah. Yeah. I like
because
that.
it's cool that, like, yeah, within the family it's like, yeah, we know, like everybody
Yeah.
knows, right? And I think it's cool that within the family they don't try to deny it amongst themselves.
Yeah.
She's actually trying to support him, and because of that she's acknowledging what his truth is, because
Yeah.
they've shown us from season one, like even since he was a child, Jaceres has known who his father is. Like
His
he just
followers.
knows.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that
Yeah.
he misses Harwin Strong and he sees a little bit of Harwin Strong in himself, I think is a bit of an endearing thing. And I like that we
Yeah.
got to see that moment. I also like that we got to see how good Bela is with the crossbow. Jesus Christ.
Good, man. That's
Don't
not
play with that girl, sure.
foreboding
Fuck.
at all. I do wonder if like kind of how everyone knows that those kids aren't black. It's like, but the family, knows, hey, that's Howard is strong, some kid. I wonder if like Michael Jackson's kids are, within the family, everybody's like, yeah, them kids ain't black, but we love them regardless. Whatever.
What? Where did this come from?
Well, have you seen Michael Jackson's kids?
I
There's
mean,
a white
yes,
boy
but like, how
named
are they
Blanket.
catching strays in this recording?
Oh, oh, sorry. I thought we were just speaking our truth here.
No, please shoot,
Bakalika,
shoot.
we can cut it out. I'm just
We're not cutting any of this out.
I guess we can leave it in. Shout out to Blankets Jackson. I
That
know,
is
nigga.
insane. Oh my
Um,
god, I didn't
but
have
I
that on my
liked
bingo card this
Rhaenyra's
morning.
kids. I liked seeing Rhaenyra's other kids, the blonde ones, the ones that are actually,
Yeah,
platinum haired.
Aegon and Viserys.
They're going on Viserys. Shout out to them. They look cute. It was nice to see a motherly side of Rhaenyra, with, perfectly juxtaposed with Helena mourning her headless baby. Well, they sewed the head back on, I guess. So, um, yeah, I did find it interesting. We haven't even talked about him on One Eye. He was with his sneaky link the night his
You remember her, right?
yeah, of course. He was with his sneaky link the night her his alleged, maybe according to some theory, tinfoil theory, baby was being killed. But I guess now that we've seen what he's into, maybe I guess Helena's kids aren't his, which I guess is
Yeah,
better
I,
for the
I
family dynamic.
I think it's cool that the show is bringing this lady back though,
Hmm.
because astute viewers will remember that she was there in episode 9 when they were looking for Aegon,
Hmm.
and he gets there with Kristen, Aemon and Kristen. I mean, um, they get to this brothel to look for Aegon, and she's like, "Oh, I recognize you," you know, and
Hmm.
she's like, if you ever want to come back and pick up where you left off, you know
Hmm.
where to find us." So the fact that they show this, and it's also the fact that the person he's with is a mother
He's
figure,
literally a mother figure.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's not put that aside,
The
right? That
traumas we
shows a
have.
little bit of his deep issues because
Hmm.
he talks about how they used to tease him. This is
Hmm.
like he's doing hard guy everywhere, right? But he's actually able to let his walls down just a little bit.
Yeah.
His eightfold fence. Shout out Aisha, and he's actually able to talk about what's really bothering him and the root of his own insecurities.
Mm.
He's like, they used to tease me, I was bullied. And he's really in this fetal position as well. Like
Mm.
he's really coiling up and he's trying to find safe haven. So essentially, I wonder if he is if his own form of gratification physically also comes from this idea of being taken care of being nurtured, and maybe the way Aegon feels ignored by Viserys, Aemon feels ignored by Alicent. I wonder.
Yeah, yeah, 100% true. It all makes sense. That there were a lot of bad bitches there, and he went for the most motherly person there. That speaks volumes. He also liked the attention, the fact that he's like, yeah,
That she was
I'm,
paying
I'm
attention to him.
surprised that they. No, not even that. Like the fact that he liked the fact that he was the one who they wanted to kill. He's like, oh yes, I'm so powerful. Yes, stroking my ego. Yes, yes,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
I think it's kind of cool to just see it that way anyway. And
yeah,
I I I think it's an interesting look into his head,
yeah,
as especially as more episodes are coming, and
yeah.
we have an idea of where this is going. But actually, what is your idea of where this is going? What do you think we're gonna see? What might we be able to expect in the next episode?
I think this episode went politics to the wall. And I think very fundamentally things have changed because there's a new
Hmm.
hand. The the old on from the Greens perspective, I think is where okay, the Blacks have lost Damon. He's said
Hmm.
he's going to Harrenhal, but who the hell knows where he is? And the Greens have been, in a sense, playing the political game, but now they have a man whose idea of solving the problem is to send a twin to go kill the queen by pretending to be another twin. So I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of the subtlety is from the Blacks' perspective. A lot of the subtlety is going to come back because Damon, who's more outright, has gone. But from the
Yeah.
Greens' perspective, a lot of the subtlety is gone because they've lost Otto Hightower, who's a subtle political mind, and now they're getting a brutal guy
Mm.
who's like on some fucking religious guilt bender. So it's going to be an
For
interesting
piety.
change of events, and I think it's going to be a lot of vengeance and fire and blood. And I think that the dragons are going to be way more prevalent in the next two episodes. As to who's going to be fighting who, blah, 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 I can only speculate and I don't even want
Yeah.
to. But I think that we are maybe one more episode away from just getting into the conflict. Both sides have dealt each other like a pretty mortal blow, Lucerys and whatever the boy's name was. Um, and I guess now the gloves are off. So let's get it.
Yeah. Shout out Otto, I guess. You had a good run.
You had a good run, man. It's been
I
real.
would I would say, like, in the interest of who played the game best, I probably will say it's him. He really
Mm,
tried. Like,
he did.
man's really tried.
He did.
Who do you think played the game best?
I think this episode I actually don't know who played the game best. I've been asking myself that question for the past day. Um, I'll just say I don't know who played the game best this episode. Probably Miss Area, just because she
Mm,
was able to
that's true.
turn from being about to be an exile and maybe
That's true.
possibly
I
being
agree
an
with you.
Essos.
She played it better than Otto. In fact, I agree with
Um,
you.
yeah, but I would say the best performance though for me was Aegon's performance. Just
Yeah.
the rage of it all and the calmness when he was talking to Ottawa. I like that. Spill blood, not
Um,
ink.
oh my god. Okay, there are a few interesting details that I feel compelled to point out that at least I found cool. In these first two episodes, anyway. First of all, Ramin.
Shout
Ramin,
out.
we love you.
Shout
Shout
out.
out, Ramin. Oh
Shout out
my
for real,
god,
for real.
this man just they should just pay him whatever he wants. Ramin Javadi and the music he makes for this show just phenomenal. Um, there is something else I found interesting in terms of building up and taking down. In the first episode, we actually see that they're building a Viserys statue to put in the throne room.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really mentions it, but it's there in the background when Aegon is taking those petitions. Of course, we've seen in season one that they have like on the columns, the big pillars in the throne room, they have Targaryen kings kind of looking down, and that's definitely pretty cool, right? And it makes sense that Viserys would be added to that. However, in the wake of the tragedy of Jaehaerys' death, Aegon is destroying the model of old Valyria that Viserys spent 20 years making,
Building, I
and it
know.
pissed me off, okay? Because here we are erecting a statue in Viserys' legacy, but his actual legacy or something he built is
Yeah,
going down.
different thing.
Of course,
Yeah,
that model showed how Viserys was very stuck in the past. Like he basically
yeah,
lived in the past and he wasn't paying attention to what was happening in the present in order to plan
yeah,
well for the future. He was really just trying to hold things together. And I don't necessarily blame him for that, but he could have done more,
yeah.
right?
But
For
also,
a
it's his
guy who had
fault
that much
that
power, he
it
could have
got
done more.
destroyed. I feel like it's because he did not
They should
put
have carried that
Rhaenyra
thing
in a
somewhere
better.
else.
Not even that. That's the king's chamber. But the fact that he did not put Rhaenyra in a good enough position to get the throne
Yeah,
and he didn't support her outright is why Aegon
yeah.
became the king and is why Aegon broke the table. Essentially, it's Viserys' fault that Aegon destroyed the table.
Yeah,
Everything is
that
Viserys'
actually,
fault.
and you can see how empty that room is at the end when Aegon, Kristen, and Otto are standing there. You can see how empty that
Yeah.
space is because the model is no longer. You can see how much it filled the entire room.
Hmm.
It's really something, and I just think that's crazy. Honestly, I guess we only have we only have what we can do is we can just wait and see, to be honest,
Yeah.
because now that Kristen is about to be hand of the king,
Yeah. Yep.
it only gets worse from here. It only gets worse from here. um I know we're team black and everything. I do feel I do feel the show is doing a good job, despite that, of not making us just blindly go, okay, team black, team green, make a choice, or
Z.
making team black look necessarily better, right?
The
I think the
writers are
show
all
is
team black.
they probably are, yeah, but I think they're actually making an effort to show that the blacks can also be bad and the greens can also be good.
Yeah.
I think it's not necessarily black and white, or I guess black and green
Black and
in this
green.
case just yet. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Rhaenyra's faction and their own dynamics in coming episodes for sure, especially now that Daemon is on the move. We'll see where he ends up, like you said. But for now, I guess that's it. Any final thoughts before we sign off?
Egon was crying and Alicent ignored him. That probably doesn't bode well for their relationship,
That's not how I
or it
saw
tells
that,
a lot.
actually. That's not
Really.
how I read that one. I read that as she was about to go and talk to him about whatever it was that she and Otto said that she should talk to him about. And then she saw him crying and decided to give him space to grieve. She's like, let me not bring this up right now. That's kind of what I saw there.
Z.
But
She ignored that
I do agree
nigga.
with you that she could have gone there to comfort him, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know, mom.
She went to go get book, bro. She went to go get some schlong.
Yeah, literally, she left and went straight to Christine. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, God, I'm
Yeah.
tired. I'm tired. You know, let's just end this podcast. I'm tired. I'm tired.
um,
Okay. Thank you all for listening this far. We really appreciate all the attention and for coming along with us on this journey. If you like what you're hearing, definitely rate and review us. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter, which will be linked in the description. We have quite a season ahead of us, and we're also covering a lot of other interesting things. We have The Boys, our coverage of Bridgerton season 3, part 2 is also out, and we're going to start covering The Bear from next week. So definitely keep it locked to the feed for more of all your favorite shows right here on Popcorn for Dinner. See you guys next week.